In this video, we shall see the use of continue statement in PHP.
So in this example, the continue statement is used inside a while loop. So what does the continue statement do? In fact, continue is somewhat opposite to what the break does. We have seen that the break inside the while loop, if break is encountered, the loop will be terminated and it will abandon the remaining number of operations or iterations of a loop. Continue on the other hand will restart the loop from the beginning. It will discard or abandon the remaining statements in the current iteration and start the next iteration. So that is how the continue behaves. So in this example, actually I should write this as continue, right? There is a loop which is controlled by the variable y is equal to 0 in the beginning, and while loop is expected to go up to y less than 10. In every time y is incremented and a random number is generated and it is printed. So if this number was not present, or rather if this statement was not present, then what would have happened? 10 different random numbers would have been generated and printed. Okay, so it is printing the value of y and x. So y is equal to 1, whatever the number was generated. So 10, y is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, up to 10 it will go, and corresponding the values of x will be printed. This if this statement is removed. But if this is the case, then anytime if the random number generated is equal to 5, this statement will not be printed and it will go to the next iteration of the loop. Y will take the next value and again the random number will be generated. If it again is equal to 5, it will skip this statement and go back. If it is not, then this will be printed and the loop will be continued till y is less than 10. So 10 number of repetitions will take place, but this statement will be printed or not will depend on the value of x. If it is equal to 5, this will be skipped and the next iteration will take place. So that is how this continue statement works. I have saved this file as continue.php and the server will start. I will go to the browser and give this URL as this one. Okay. So the server is running. I'll give the URL as continue.php and press enter. There you see the number of iterations are 1 to 10, but the second iteration has been skipped because the value that has been generated might have been equal to 5. So it skipped the subsequent print or echo statement and the number of repetitions have gone up to 10. Again refresh it, it may give different output. In this case, even after 10 iterations, the random number 5 was not generated. So all the 10 iterations have appeared. In this case, the iteration number 5 is skipped because obviously because x would have been equal to 5. So that is how here again all the 10. Here again all the 10. You see 7 and 8 are skipped. That is because obviously x would have been equal to 5. So this is the behavior of the continue statement.
In this video, we shall have a look at the different decision making statements that are available in PHP.
So this example is used to demonstrate the behavior of if, else if and else, the conditional statements in PHP. And for this purpose, I am using a built-in function in PHP called as rand. This generates a random number between the two parameters that I have given, 1 to 100. So every time it will generate a number between 1 to 100. Now all I have to do is to check whether it lies in a particular range. So to begin with, if x is less than 25, I have to just print the prompt number less than 25. else if the number is not less than 25, then I want to check it whether it is less than 50. If it is so, then I'll print number is between 25 to 50. Else, that means if both the conditions are not true, then the control of the program will land into the last or the final else. So you can have a series of else if statements to relegate or discard the different conditions that may be present in the entire decision logic. So here the first condition, if this is not true, the second condition, and if all the previous cases or conditions are not true, then the program will land into the final else. So this is the use of if, else, else if and else. So let us see how it behaves. Of course, the number we generated will be a random number, so every time you may find different output being generated. So let us run it couple of times and see the result. So the server is running, and I have opened the browser in which I am giving the address localhost if statement.php. The script that we have written, I have saved it as if statement.php in the document root of the server, web server. So I just press enter. At this point of time, the random number generated is 53, and therefore it is greater than or equal to 50. Again, if I run it, it may generate a different number, and the different result number is greater than 50. Again, fortunately, all the time the number is greater than 50 is appearing. We may get some number. The numbers are being randomized, but I wonder, yeah, so this is random number 5, number is less than 25. So the randomization also is taking accurately, and the if statement result is also appearing as per the requirement. So this is the demonstration of if, else if and else in PHP.
If your programming logic requires multiple if statements, then writing or putting more than one if statements in a sequence becomes rather clumsy, especially if each of these if or else blocks might be containing more than one statements. In that case, you will have to make a block of the statements by using the curly brackets. So in that, this unnecessary clumsiness of multiple if statements, it is also a switch case statement is also available. So you can use that in this particular situation.
So in this example, I will show you the use of switch case, another conditional statement in PHP, where the different cases or different possibilities of a switching variable are processed. Right. So therefore, for this example, I am also using the rand function, and the rand function is used 3 times to generate 3 random numbers. First 2 random numbers are between 1 to 10. These are going to be used as the operands for the addition, multiplication, subtraction and division operations. Which operation is to be done will be decided by the third random number between 1 to 4. So these 3 random numbers x, y, z will be printed as they are generated. Now since my addition, subtraction, multiplication, division operations are going to be decided by the value of the z variable, I am using switch z. So if the value of z happens to be 1, the case 1 will be satisfied because z is equal to 1. Addition will be done and the control will break out of this switch to this output statement. You know that each case must be having the last statement as break in order to prevent the program control from falling through the entire cascade of switches, the cases. So every case has a break at the end. Of course, this will not require because this is the last one. Okay, so the result is, expected result is very obvious. Two random numbers from 1 to 10 will be generated. Third random number between 1 to 4 will be generated. Depending on the value of z, switching will take place. If z is equal to 1, addition, 2, subtraction, multiplication and division. Okay, and whatever the result will be printed. So I have saved this file as switch.php in the document root of the web server. With the web server running, we'll enter this file as a URL and see the result. We'll of course run it couple of times to see the different randomization of the results. Okay. So I have entered the URL as localhost switch.php and enter numbers 94, operation code is 3, result is 36. Again executed, numbers 86, operation code 2, result is 2. So it is fairly accurately 4, 5, result is 0.8, that being the division. 7, 10, again the division is 0.7. So 110 addition, result is 11. So that's how the output is going to come as a result of the switch case functionality of our conditional statements in PHP.
In this video, I will explain to you the use of while loop in a PHP program.
So let us now see the execution of while loop as it is used in PHP. So in this code I have two while loops in action. This is one and this is another. So in first case, the initial value of a variable that is controlling the loop is I equal to 0, and I want to execute these two statements. What are these two statements? Increment the value of I and print it out, so long as the value of I is less than 10. So what do you expect starting from I is equal to 1? The number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That is the expected output of this loop. Okay. In the second example, again I am using the rand function to generate a random number between 1 to 10, and that is the value of x, and the loop is expected to keep on repeating till x is not equal to 5. So depending on the possibility or the probability of the what random number is generated at that point of time, x, the loop may go on for 1, 2, 5, 9, 100 number of repetitions, or it may even terminate in the very first place where probability of the first random number itself being equal to 5 will be there. So the output will be unpredictable, so to say, because it involves a random number, and so long as the random number is not equal to 5, this loop is going to run. This is a straightforward 1 to 10 output. This is of course a random output till the number generated is not equal to 5. Okay, so these two examples now I will show you. I have saved this file as while.php. I will start the server, open the browser, give the URL of this, right? Okay, so now the server is running. In the browser I am giving localhost while.php. Just press enter. This is the output of the first while loop, which generates numbers from 1 to 10. This is the output of a loop having a random number, and the loop is expected to go on till it encounters a 5. So as soon as the number is 5, the loop is terminated. So that many number of times x was generated, it was not equal to 5. If I again run it, the second loop output may be different. See, only the second occurrence of a random number is equal to 5. So after the two iterations, the loop terminated. So that can vary as see the first number itself is 5. So this is how the while loop behaves in a PHP script.
This video explains to you the use of for loop in PHP.
So in this PHP script, I will show you the use of for statement and for loop. And there are three different examples. With the help of each, I will show you the different ways in which the for statement is used. But the syntax of for loop is like this. It takes three parameters. One is the initialization of the controlling variable. Here x is set to equal to 1. Second statement is the test condition up to which the for loop is running is expected to run x is less than 10, and every time how much increment or the controlling variable to be incremented by what, x plus plus is the third argument. So this loop will run from x equal to 1 to x less than 10, incrementing the value of x every time by 1. So I expect number to be printed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in as a result of this for loop. But you know that the three parameters of this for loop, or three clauses of this, not parameters, the clauses of the for loop, they are not mandatory as such. You can ignore even all of them and I told you that even if all the arguments are not given, the for loop will become a infinite loop. Here in this case, what I am doing, I am setting the initial value of x is equal to 0. I am giving the test condition, and what is the test condition? I expect this for loop to go on till x not equal to 5, and I have not mentioned any value of the incrementing clause. Okay, and then inside the for loop there is a rand function which generates numbers, any random number from 1 to 10, and I have to print it. So every time when the loop runs, if it doesn't encounter x equal to 5, the loop will run. As soon as x printed value of x is equal to 5, this test condition will be false and the loop will stop. So how many iterations this for loop will do, that you never know. That depends on the random number. In what occurrence, or at which occurrence, or at which instance x will become 5, that is a random choice. So you will expect different output of this second for loop. The for loop is especially popular when you want to traverse the entire array. So array, of course, you will learn in one of the subsequent chapters, but here I am declaring a array ARR as an array. Array is a built-in function to create an array, and there are 5 elements. So if I run a for loop from x equal to 0 to 4, every time incrementing x by 1, I use this control variable x as the index of the array. So array of x, I'll print array of x every time. So array of 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So that means 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. These numbers are expected to be printed. Okay, so this is the simple for loop. This is a for loop in which the termination is decided by the random number, and this is the third for loop to traverse the array. Okay, so I have saved this file as forloop.php in the document root of my server. The web server will now start, and then in the local in the browser's address bar, I will give the URL of this localhost forloop.php and see the result. So with the web server already running, in the browser I am giving forloop.php as the URL. There you see the three different outputs. This is the output of the first for loop from 1 to 10. This is the output of the second for loop in which a random number is to be generated, and if the random number encountered is equal to 5, the loop is going to terminate. This is the traversal of the array in which these 5 elements are there. This of course will be a variable output. Every time it may generate different number of values. So if I run it again, there you see the random number was encountered to be equal to 5 just at the second occurrence. That may change. This is the traditional or simple for loop 1 to 10. This is the array traversal. Okay, so that's how the for loop is used in a PHP script.
In this video, I'll tell you about the MySQL API, which is a part of the PHP software.
So with the help of this example, let us try and understand the features of MySQL API. Before going on to explain this code, let me tell you that this MySQL API has been deprecated since the PHP 7. So if you have in your computer PHP 7 installed, then this code may not work. Instead, you will have to get a PHP 5 or earlier version installed on your computer so that this MySQL API can be used. So for this purpose, I have installed a WAMP server in which, in addition to the Apache server and MySQL software, the PHP version 5 is available. So let me show you the home page of the WAMP server. So this is the WAMP server home page. You can see that the PHP version 5.3.10 is the version that is installed on it, and the extension that is available is MySQL. So the MySQL API functions can be run on this particular configuration. So PHP MyAdmin is the GUI interface for managing the MySQL database. So if I open this, it will show you the different databases that are stored on the server, and the rest of the menus are provided by which you can add the data, insert the data, create the table, etc., etc. We are of course not going to do anything from this. This is just a verification. This will be a verification of all the activities that you will do from the PHP side. Okay, so this is where your data will come and stay. Okay, so let us go back to the PHP code now. So first is the execution of MySQL connect function, which enables or which establishes the connection of your PHP program with the MySQL server, and it needs 3 parameters: the name of the host, username, and password. So they have been set here. If these credentials are found to be correct, this connection resource will be created. If not, then I want to terminate the entire program, so therefore I am executing a die function with this particular error message. Otherwise, I'll go on to create a database called as testdb. So this is the SQL statement that I want to execute: create database testdb. And in order to execute the SQL query, a function in MySQL API is MySQL query. It needs two parameters. One is the query, other is the connection object that we have created here. This query does not get run properly. This return value will not be created. In that case also I want to terminate. But if it does go ahead, then I want to create a table. So this is the query of create table, in which the table structure is given here. How many fields are there? Employee name, employee address, employee salary. Its type and its size are mentioned here, and some other constraints are also mentioned, like for example, name cannot be null. In fact, all of them are specified to be not null. And in addition to that, a fourth field is also present, employee ID, which is an integer, which is not null, and it is auto increment also, and that employee ID has been stipulated to be a primary key of this particular table. So a table of this structure is to be created. So before running this query, I have to use the test DB, the database that was created in the previous step. Now that database is brought into use by a function MySQL select DB, and inside that this table needs to be created. So again execute the query MySQL query. If the table is properly created, if not, then stop. Otherwise, give the message table created and go on to execute the insert query. Insert query takes this following form: insert into the table name. Here in our case, the name of the table is employee. So insert name employee followed by the field, structure, the structure of the table. How many fields? Name, address, and employee salary. You don't have to give the ID field because it is auto incrementable. So automatically, as the number of records go on adding, the employee ID is anyway going to be incremented automatically. What are the values? Correspondingly, name will take Raju, address will take Nanded, and salary will take 10,000. So such a query, insert query, is to be executed. So again execute my SQL query. This is the string of query and the connection object. If properly executed, just display a enter data successfully message. And finally go on to close the connection that you created in the very first place by saying MySQL close. So this is the entire PHP script which will interact with the MySQL database. We open the connection, create the database, create the table, and insert a record. So all these activities will be done if you run this mysql1.php in your browser. Okay, so this was the explanation of the code. Now we will run it and see the result. Okay. So as I give this URL mysql1.php, you see the messages that are displayed in the browser's page. Connected successfully. This was when the MySQL connect function was properly executed. Test DB was created. Table employee was created, and one record was successfully entered or inserted inside the table. So this was the operation that was done. But we will have to verify this by going actually into our PHP myadmin, see that the database, the table, and the record is created. So for that purpose, this is our myadmin. I have to refresh this so that the test DB newly created database is visible here. Open this. There is a table called as employee which was just created. Click on this. This was a record that was added into the table by our PHP script. So this confirms that all the MySQL functions, MySQL API functions that we used in our PHP script have worked properly. Okay, so this was our first exercise. So this second example shows you how you can insert a record into a MySQL table by entering the data into an HTML form. So this script, if you open it in a browser, mysql2.php is the name that I have given. If you open it in a browser, for the first time, it will open a form. So I will show you the HTML form code here. This is the form from this point to this point. This is the form inside which in a 2-column table, what we have entered or what we have created is an input name is equal to employee name of the type text to enter the name, to enter the address, to enter the salary. So it is simply a form with 3 text fields and of course a button. Importantly, the form attributes that are given are form method is equal to post and action is equal to PHP self. That means what? the data will be posted to to this same script. So obviously when the first occurrence or first time when this PHP script will be displayed, the submit button might not have been pressed. Obviously not, submit has not been pressed. So when the as the page starts opening in your browser, this is set will fail because submit has not been pressed. The name of the button in this case is add. So this is not pressed, so therefore this part will not be executed. Which part? From here to here. And so therefore it will run into this form. So form will be opened, user will enter the data and press the submit button. Subsequently this post $post add will be true. Then actually the insertion operation will start. All the required credentials are given here: host name, username, password, using which the connection is established, and the form data which is stored in the $post server variable, super global server variable, from which the data is fetched and stored into the PHP variables emp name, address and salary. Use these variables to execute the insert query. Insert into employee, these are the names of the fields and these are the values that are fetched from the form, right? So this insert query is to be executed doing the same thing, selecting a database and executing the query. If all goes well, the message enter the data successfully should appear on your screen. So let us run this mysql2.php. One record is already there, which we have entered by hard coding the values into the insert query. Now we will fill up the new record by accepting it from an HTML form. So let us run this mysql2.php. So as I enter the URL mysql2.php in my browser, a HTML form is opened in which these three text fields are there to enter the name, address and salary, and then there is a submit button. So some data I will introduce or insert. Something like this, and press submit. Now that the data will be posted back to the same script, in which on the top there is a PHP code to establish the connection and insert the records. So that will be executed and the data will be successfully entered. So again go back to our PHP myadmin and see whether the newly inserted record does appear in it or not. So I have to refresh this and again open employee. There you go, the two records are now visible. So interactively by taking the user from the input, you can add the data into a backend MySQL table. That's how this script will allow you to do that. Okay. The third example in this continuation is regarding the reading of the data from a table using a select query and using the MySQL API functions. So how to read the data from the MySQL table? Again, starting with the same sequence of events, MySQL connect function to establish the connection. Select the database you want to process, the test DB. What is the query to be executed? Simple select star from employee. In order to execute query, the function is MySQL query. Because now this is a select query, the return value of this MySQL query function will be a result set. So this result variable is the result set. Using the MySQL API functions like MySQL number of rows will give me how many records are there in the table, and MySQL number fields will give me how many fields are there in my select query. Okay, so I will run a nested for loop situation where the upper loop or outer loop will run from 0 to the number of fields. In our case, there are 3 fields, right? Name, address and salary. And the inner loop is as many number of rows. Right now, in our example, we inserted 2 records, so number of rows is 2. So each time when a row is fetched from the result set, the row will be an associative array, and using the index of the fields as the index of that associative array, row of j will give me jth field from in the table. So when j is equal to 0, it will give me name, address and city. All these 3 fields will be put into 3 cells of one row. You see that I have started a table by echo table border is equal to 1. In the first row, all the field names have been displayed into one row. So you start a row, then add a td tag, insert or put the field name. The first field name j will be the loop which will control the value of the field name. So result j will be 0, result 0. The 0th field will be there, 1 and 2. So likewise, name, address and salary, these field names will be the column names of my table. And these 2 nested for loops will fetch one row at a time and display the contents of each table in that row in separate td tags. So that's how the table will be formed. So if I run this script now, what I should see on my browser, a table showing the records divided into rows and columns. So let us run this and see what happens. So the MySQL 3.php is opened in the browser, and you can see the first row of the table is all the field names, ID, name, address and salary, and each row is subsequently displayed according to their field names. So that is how the data is extracted from the table and displayed on the browser with the help of the MySQL functions.